Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. We are not getting my normal setup because I am just too tired to do it. So this is literally just being illuminated by my computer, which I'm going to use for information anyways. So yeah, I'm sorry if this video isn't at my normal whatchamacallit, at my normal level, because, well, I'm just tired. I'm kind of getting burnt out, but I am determined. So this, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, is going to be series that I want to complete in 2022. So these series are series that I have already started, and that all of the books are released as I'm filming this. So not, oh, the series finishes in 2022, but that are finished as of the point I'm filming with this. So we'll start off with A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. The first book being A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which I have read, and the second book being A Psalm of Storm and Silence. Yes, I think I'm pronouncing that right. And essentially, the first book, A Song of Wraiths and Ruins, we follow two characters. One is Malik, who ends up making this deal with this person and to get his sister back, and essentially his part of the bargain is to kill Princess Karina, and then we have Karina, who is trying to bring back her dead mother, and this is a I think it's West African inspired fantasy world. And I read A Song of Wraiths and Ruin in July, I believe, and the second book just came out last month in November. So I do really want to pick up the second one and finish off this duology, because it is only a duology. The next series is the Captive Prince series, the first book being Captive Prince, the second book being Captive Prince Volume 2, and then the third book being King's Rising. I don't know why they're in that format type thing, in that, how it's Volume 1, Volume 2, and then a whole different thing, but it's all the same world. Essentially in this we follow Prince Damien, is it? And he essentially gets almost kicked out of his country after his brother became king, and he ends up being sold as Damien ends up getting sold as a slave to this other country. And this is a new adult queer novel. And I read Captive Prince in June and just never continued with the series. I do remember enjoying it. I think I gave it a 3-star, but I am curious on where it's going to go, and I know that if I do not continue on with it soon, I'm going to forget everything from book 1, and I know that there was some trigger warnings for obviously slavery. I think there was, if I remember correctly, trigger warnings for sexual assault and sexual abuse, as well as a few other things that are just probably slipping my mind, but those are a few that just popped into my head. I think also maybe slightly suicidal ideation, but yeah, I remember I read the Captive Prince I think I read it in one sitting, or at least I read it in one day. So maybe just pick a weekend, read the last 2 books. I don't know. So the next series I want to finish is the Montague Siblings. So I have read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, The Gentleman's Guide to Getting Lucky, which is the novella, A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy, and then I have yet to read The Nobleman's Guide to Shipwrecks and Scandals. Is that the title? We're going with it. They'll be on the screen, so you'll be able to tell which ones I have and haven't read, just based on kind of guessing the titles. And this is a series that it's set in the early 1700s, early 18th century, where we follow the 3 Montague siblings. In the first book we follow Monty as he and his best friend Percy go on this like tour of Europe. And then in the novella, we are also following Monty and Percy. In A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy, we follow Felicity as she is going on like a tour of Europe or something. And then in A Nobleman's Guide to Shipwrecks and Scandals, I think that's the title. We follow Adrian, who has no idea his two older siblings exist because Monty and Felicity kind of fled the family. So like I really enjoyed the first three. I want to say the first two because like the novella was like iffy, it wasn't necessary to the story, but I did really enjoy the first two, and I started this series June last year, so June 2020 I believe, and the third book just came out last month, so I do really want to pick it up right away. So the next series that I want to finish is the Seafire Trilogy. So the first book being Seafire, the second book being Steeltide, and the third book being Stormbreak. And I own the first two, as you can see, and I want to get my hands on the third book. I don't want to read the third book until I can own it, which as of right now is I don't know when. So essentially in Seafire we follow Caledonia, who is the captain of this all-female crew, and when they are like attacked by these people, essentially these we are in a world that there's this one person trying to like take control of the entire sea. They are attacked by those people, and a bullet, which is what the like helpers of this person are, ends up on their ship. They have to like befriend him, and they also just have to deal with a bunch of shit, and there's like a revenge storyline. I give both of these 4 stars, I believe. I did really enjoy these. I read this book in January of this year, and this book in, was it September? So I do really want to continue on with this series with Stormbreak. Sorry for moving that around the screen. I'll do that, figure that out in editing. So the next series is the Serpent and Dove trilogy by Shelby Mahurin. The first book being Serpent and Dove, which I've read, the second book being Blood and Honey, which I have also read, and the third book being Gods and Monsters, which I read the first 100 pages of and then DNF'd. So essentially, I'll explain why I DNF'd the third book afterwards and why this series is on this list. But essentially, Serpent and Dove, we follow a witch named Lou and a witch hunter named Reed, as they are, for a reason, forced into an arranged marriage. And that's pretty much like all I knew going into it and all I'm going to explain. But the reason why I DNF'd Gods and Monsters is because I read Blood and Honey when it first came out, which was September of 2020, and then I read Gods and Monsters September 2021 when it came out. So I waited a year. Like, there was a year in between me reading the second book and the third book that I forgot everything that happened in the first two. And I do want to do a reread of the first two and then continue on with the series and finish it off, because I think I gave Serpent and Dove 5 stars, Blood and Honey 4 stars, I think. So I did really enjoy the series. So like, yeah. The next book is I technically think it's the With Me series, but the first book being She's With Me, which I've read. The second book being Stay With Me, and the third book being Still With Me. I've read the second book, and I need to read the third book, which just came out. I only own the first one. I want to get this whole series. But it was originally a Wattpad series, which I read it on Wattpad. So technically I've read the third book, but the Wattpad version, which is very different than the published version. But essentially in She's With Me, we follow Amelia, who moves to this new town, and she has this goal of lying low for her senior year, kind of avoiding friends, like just kind of getting through. But then she meets this boy named Aiden and his friends, and then that plan changes, and it is just like a contemporary romance series. And the Wattpad version of this book is what got me into reading. I read it within my first few weeks of like reading books on Wattpad, and that kick-started my love of reading. And I do really want to own this entire series. I know that I put book 2 on my Christmas list, so maybe, I have no idea. I could be totally just like pulling at strings here. But I just remember loving these characters and like, yeah. So the next series is Something Dark and Holy by Emily A. Duncan. And for the first book is Wicked Saints, which I've read, and I actually own. It's just at the bottom of a pile of books, and I am not in the mood to dig through that. So I own Wicked Saints, and I've read it. Then we have book 2, that is Ruthless Gods, which I haven't read, and we have Less Monsters, which is book 3, which I haven't read. So I don't remember anything from Wicked Saints, so I'll just read the Goodreads description. A girl who could speak to gods must save her people without destroying herself. A prince in danger must decide who to trust. A boy with a monstrous secret awaits in the wings. Together they must assassinate the king and stop the war. In a centuries-long war where beauty and brutality meet, the 3 paths intertwine in a shadowy world of spilled blood and mysterious saints, where forbidden romance threatens to tip the scales between dark and light. I remember that there is like a thing where it's like there's 2 different kinds of magic, and like there's these 2 opposing countries that like one uses the magic the one way, one uses the magic the other way, and it's like everybody's morally gray, and that's all I remember. I did give Wicked Saints 4 stars, but again, I don't remember much of it. I read Wicked Saints, was it July 2020? I feel like that's right. So like, I would need to do a reread of book 1, and then I really want to continue on the series. I know that earlier this year the author did say some controversial things. I did buy book 1 before all of that, but I do not plan on buying the other 2 books. I will just borrow them from my library. So yeah. And the final series I want to finish, which is honestly the series that I want to finish the most, so might as well save it for last, is the Aurora Cycle series by Amie, Kaufman, and J. Kristoff. I love this series. So we have book 1, which is Aurora Rising, which I've read. Book 2, which is Aurora Burning, which I have read. And then book 3, which is Aurora's End, which is the final book in the trilogy. And I need to read it so bad. I'm waiting for my hold from my library. That is why I'm not reading it right now. Because they don't have the ebook, and I'm waiting the physical book, and ugh. But essentially, in the first book, Aurora Rising, we have, we have multiple point of views, but the main thing is we have Kyler Jones, who is supposed to be this, like, captain of this squad 312, but he ends up missing the graduation, where essentially at the end of your graduation, you get to kind of choose your squad. Why does he miss it, you may ask? He ends up saving this girl named Aurora from a ship that has been mysteriously missing for 200 years. And he ends up with the dregs, kind of the school, and essentially they go off on this mission, and then shit happens because Aurora ends up being a stowaway, and oh my gosh, it is so good. I gave book 1 4 stars and book 2 4.5, and book 5 has a potential of being 5 stars. I am just like, the way we fucking ended off Aurora Burning had me damn near throwing the book across the room, but I obviously didn't because it was a library book. I will say that. This is a series I want to own, I just don't have the money to, and that irks me so much. And I just loved it so much, and I'm dying to continue it, so it will be finished in 2022 if my life depends on it. So those are 8 book series that I want to read in 2022. Let me know what are some series that you want to complete in 2022. I'd love to hear all of those series in the comments below, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!